Hey everyone, today is Wednesday, April 1st, and no, I'm not fooling you. We still have some assignments for today. So I'm going to go over your language arts assignment for today. We're continuing on with Flesh and Blood So Cheap, and we are going to be doing the skills lesson. So when you actually click on your assignment for this week, make sure that you look, if you haven't yet, to make sure you look at the overview video. We have a read and annotate video so far, your comprehension questions videos so far, and now you're going to have this question, this video for those skill lesson questions on here as well. So they will be posted on here once I'm done with this. But if you haven't done any of these assignments before now, you have to do them because you need to make sure that you read the video, read the text, that you annotate it, and that you really understand and comprehend the text before you can even get into this part. So once you do that, you're going to go on to the Google slide for today. And remember, we are on Wednesday. So we're going to first view the learning target on slide 6 and then go into Study Sync. So on slide 6, you'll see that the learning targets for today is first to learn the definition of informational text structures, as well as the different types of text structures, and then practice using concrete strategies for identifying and analyzing how an informational text may be organized. So we are going to take a look, as we've been doing off and on throughout the year so far, at different types of informational text structures. And again, that'll be some review. But we already talked a little bit in the beginning of the text where we discussed the background and went over some of the story, the true event itself, that the author chose to use a couple different types of text structures. So make sure that after you work on this with me, you're going to go right on to the Study Sync assignment and click the skill info text structure. I would like for you guys to watch the the define tab video on your own first. And then I'm going to read through the model tab with you and make sure that I read and explain the questions with you. All right, so on Study Sync, this is what you're going to see on your screen. Again, I'm not really going to go into the defining part, but make sure that you look it over again because it does talk about all of the definitions, plus provides you with a video too. So go to the model tab with me. And again, you could do this whole video with me. You can pause it and go back to it. So then that way, at least you're following along with me. All right, so for this model, it is important. I would again highly suggest that you watch this video on your own time. I'm not going to watch this with you. But if you remember, the story itself definitely had a lot of sequence of events and description. And I would say that those are the two most important ones. Sorry, don't know why that came up. Oh man. Anywho, it is really important to note that those types of text structures are very common when we read informational text, especially when the texts are about real life events. So, just again, make sure you watch the video first. And when we are identifying these types of structures, it's also important to remember to find those key details. So, as I go through this model with you, we're going to talk a little bit about some of that. Authors arrange and connect events and ideas in informational writing. Sometimes two or more text structures might be present in one text, although one structure usually dominates. For example, a writer may relate a series of events in the order they happen. This is called sequential text structure. Authors may also use one or two of those events to show cause and effect. This is called cause and effects text structure. And you guys did that if you did the assignment in the quiz questions. That was actually part of the last question, number 10. Ask yourself questions as you read. What events does the author or narrator tell about? Do the events have to happen in the order in which they are told? And does one event cause another event to happen? You can also look for clues, such as transition words, to determine the text structure an author uses to organize the text. Now, I'm not going to read every single one, but I'm pretty sure you could tell that there was a lot of sequential transition words used. There were maybe a couple cause and effect words, and we'll go over that in a moment, as well as lots of description. Determine how the major sections contribute to the text as a whole and to the development of ideas. So let's look at the model. Like many authors of informational texts, Albert Marin uses a variety of text structures in Flesh and Blood So Cheap, The Triangle Fire and Its Legacy. Because Marin has given his readers a blow by blow description of the event, he uses an overarching text structure based on sequence or time order. Marin alerts his readers to this sequential text structure by referencing exact times. For example, in paragraph 3, at exactly 4:45 p.m., someone pulled the 8th floor fire alarm. And in paragraph 14, by 5:15 p.m., exactly 35 minutes after flames burst from beneath a cutting table, firefighters had brought the blaze under control. This overarching text structure provides a framework in which Marin lets the story unfold as events happen. Within this framework, Marin uses a variety of other text structures in individual paragraphs, each with a specific purpose or intent. You heard a lot of times being given because, in some respects, it's important to pay attention to how quickly this fire really spread, as well as how quickly the disaster really took place. The Triangle Shirtwaist Fire was a historic event, and Marin uses cause and effects text structure to hook his readers in the first two paragraphs. We will never know for sure what started the Triangle Fire. Most likely, a cutter flicked a hot ash or tossed a live cigarette butt into a scrap bin. Whatever the cause, survivors said the first sign of trouble was smoke pouring from beneath a cutting table. And guys, cutters, they're the ones who were cutting the fabric. So, just to give you guys a little bit of an idea, I know that this is a bit of a dated event. Just like with the elevator operators at that time were people that actually would open up the elevator doors. They'd actually operate it. It wasn't like it was as modern as it is today. Cutters flung buckets of water at the smoking spot without effect. Flames shot up, igniting the line of hanging paper patterns. They began to fall on the layers of thin goods underneath them, recalled cutter Max Rothen. Every time another piece dropped, light scraps of burning fabric began to fly around the room. They came down on the other tables and they fell on the machines. Then the line broke and the whole string of burning patterns fell down. A foreman ran for the hose on the stairway wall. Nothing. No water came. The hose had not been connected to the actual standpipe. Seconds later, the fire leaped out of control. Now, on top of all of that cause and effect, like the details in this are really, really helpful because it really sets the scene for you. Imagine seeing all of these little patterns that have been cut up flying around in the air that are caught on fire and how quickly this fire is spreading because of that. By using a cause and effect text structure, Marin is able to create a chain reaction of events to explain how the fire spread so quickly. In sentence 3 of paragraph 1, he says, whatever the cause, survivors said that the first sign of trouble was smoke pouring from beneath a cutting table. When water didn't put out the smoking spot, flames ignited the hanging patterns, and like a domino effect, the falling patterns ignited the fabric on the cutting tables, sending burning scraps of fabric to fly around the room. The cause and effect structure helps to build suspense and communicate the frenzied feeling of the event. In addition, Marin uses sequential text structure throughout the text. In paragraph 3, he references the exact time of events to enable his readers to wait expectantly for the firefighters to spring into action. At exactly 4:45 p.m., someone pulled the 8th floor fire alarm. In less than 2 minutes, the horse-drawn vehicles, yes, people, horse-drawn, there weren't as many cars back then, of Engine Company 72 arrived from a firehouse 6 blocks away. The moment they arrived, the firefighters unloaded their equipment and prepared to swing into action. Notice how Marin uses transition words and phrases to alert his readers to the sequence of events. At exactly 4:45 p.m., in less than 2 minutes, the moment they arrived. This timeline of events enables his readers to keep track of events as they happen. Marin's goal, however, is to do more than simply describe this event. He also wants his readers to experience this horrible tragedy on a personal level. For this, he uses a descriptive text structure that will ensure empathy on the part of his readers. And you definitely are supposed to feel really upset by the end of this based on what he describes to you. Like I said, this is over 100 years ago when this event happened, and you can still feel a lot of sadness for them. In paragraph 13, he says, onlookers saw many dreadful sights, none more so than the end of a love affair. A young man appeared at a window. Gently, he helped the young woman step onto the window sill, held her away from the building, and let go. He helped another young woman onto the window sill. Those of us who were looking saw her put her arms around him and kiss him, Shepard wrote. Then he held her out into space and dropped her. But quick as a flash, he was on the windowsill himself. He was brave enough to help the girl he loved to a quicker death after she had given him a goodbye kiss. By focusing on the actions of the young man and by telling his story, Marin helps his readers feel for both the people caught in the fire and for those who witnessed the horror. The text structures he uses, particularly the overarching pattern of sequence, enable Marin to organize his text and to show how the major sections contribute to the text as a whole and to the development of key ideas. So, as we get to this next section, it's really important to notice that this is a very sad, sad event in history. And it's not just as if you're reading this in a newspaper. This is definitely meant to make you feel bad for the people and to give you a lot of really good details about something that was part of our history. All right. So we talked a lot about three specific text structures, but there's definitely more that could be a part of this as well. So it is really important that as you listen to this part of the text, pay attention to what kind of text structure only in this section you notice. So the directions specifically say, read this section in paragraphs 6 and 7 from Flesh and Blood So Cheap to determine the structure the author uses to organize the text. Then answer the follow-up questions. So I'm only reading 2 paragraphs. Really listen as I'm reading these to you. Workers shouting, crying, and gasping for air slowly made their way downstairs. There were no lights in the stairway, so they had to grope their way in darkness. A girl fell. Others fell on top of her, blocking the stairs until firefighters arrived moments later. Yet everyone who took the stairway from the 8th floor got out alive, exiting through the Washington Place doors. Those on the 9th floor were not so lucky. Those who reached the 9th floor stairway door found it locked. This was not unusual, as employers often lock doors to discourage latecomers and keep out union organizers. My God, I am lost, cried Margaret Schwartz as her hair caught fire. Nobody who went to that door survived, nor any who reached the windows. So, in these 2 paragraphs, you're first hearing that the 8th floor people who were working there were able to get out and survive. But we know that the people on the 9th floor were not so lucky. So, which of the following best describes the structure the author uses to organize the text? Really think. I first talked to you about the people on the 8th floor, then I talked to you about the people on the 9th floor. So, which of the following best describes the structure that the author used to organize the text? A. Sequence. B. Description. C. Cause and effect. Or D. Comparison and contrast. Based on the answer that you pick here, and I tried my best to give you a bit of a hint, then you're going to go to part B and you're going to choose which section or which sentence from this passage, and only these 2 paragraphs, supports your answer to part A. A. Those on the ninth floor were not so lucky. B, those who reached the ninth floor stairway door found it locked. C, there were no lights in the stairway, so they had to grope their way in darkness. Or D, workers, shouting, crying, and gasping for air, slowly made their way downstairs. If you're going to be picking, and again, I'm not giving you answers, but if you're going to be picking something like description, obviously either C or D would be close to that. Um, cause and effect, you really first just want to pay attention to, which one of these is best going to describe um, these. So, trying my best not to give you guys too many hints here. Anyway, once you are done this, make sure that you hit submit assignment so that you can turn it in. And then tomorrow is the last assignment, which is the SCR, your short constructed response. Again, I'll be posting another video for that to help. So make sure you definitely view that before you even get into writing it yourself. I hope that this helps for today, and I'll see you tomorrow.